If you've ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of overplanning, juggling way too many to dos, and still feeling behind, this conversation is for you. Today, I'm joined by Anna Dearmon Kornick, a sought after time management coach and founder of the It's About Time Academy. Known for her fun, approachable take on productivity, Anna shares the real reason why high achievers feel so overwhelmed. And it's not just because you're busy. We talk about context switching, the myth of multitasking, how to actually feel work-life balance, and why burnout isn't solved by simply doing less. If you're craving more space, clarity, and energy without letting go of your ambition, then keep on listening. Welcome to Calmly Coping. I am excited to be here with Anna Dearmon Kornick, and we're going to be talking all about time management, especially for high achievers. I'm super excited for this conversation. It's great to have you here, Anna.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to diving in.
So I know that a lot of my listeners struggle with feelings of overwhelm because they tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves, put a lot on their plate in addition to the things that they already have going on. Can you speak more to why it is that a lot of people, and especially high achievers, tend to struggle with these feelings of overwhelm?
Yeah, so overwhelm is so incredibly common, unfortunately. I mean, I think that we're experiencing an overwhelm epidemic right now. And there are so many different reasons why we feel this way. I mean, one piece of it is that we are taking in more information than we have ever had to process in the history of the world. I mean, there are studies that show that in order to stay on top of all of the new information that comes our way each day through emails and text messages, just all of the inputs, it takes a minimum of 90 minutes for us to process just the new inputs that come each day. So that's just new incoming information. That doesn't even count doing work or living life or taking care of your family or managing existing projects and communication. And so there's this constant onslaught of information. It makes me think about social media. The other day, my mom said, when I was your age, I would look at magazines, but now Instagram is like a magazine that just never ends. So I never stop looking at it. And this is something that impacts everyone. We never reach the end of the information waterfall. It's just always coming our way. And when you are a high achiever, you are built, you are wired to complete things. You are built to finish things. And when it comes to information in this day and age that we live in, there is no end. And so, those of us who have this innate preference for closure and finishing and checking things off of a list, we never actually get there. And it can cause us to feel very restless and very overwhelmed. Not to mention the fact that there's something called the Zeigarnik effect, which tells us that our brains have a preference for unfinished things. So think about it when you're laying in bed at night and you're cycling through all of the things that you need to do tomorrow or all of the unfinished projects, and you're asking yourself, oh, did I sign that permission slip? Did I follow through with XYZ? I need to follow up with so and so. Our brain just loves to bring up everything that's unfinished. Very rarely do we dwell on things that we've already completed, right?
Yeah.
And so when you combine the never-ending flow of information, plus the fact that our brain loves to ruminate on things that are unfinished, and you factor in the something that so many of us high achievers have in common, and it's that our eyes are bigger than our plates when it
Mm.
comes to taking on projects and activities. Okay. It reminds me of like Thanksgiving or a buffet where you're walking through the line and you're just filling your plate. Ooh, this casserole, and let me add some sweet potatoes, and let me have both turkey and ham. And you've got this full plate. but you don't have the capacity to actually eat all of those things. And it's the same thing with our time. We want to be a part of so many different things and try a lot of different things, but we just don't have the time capacity to make it happen. A lot of times we think that we're overwhelmed because of the number of hours that we're working or the amount of time that we're spending on something. But the reality is that overwhelm comes from the variety of things that you're spending time on. And the more things that are on your plate, the less progress you're able to make toward completion on any one project. And overwhelm is what happens next.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of powerful things that you just shared in those few minutes that I think, really resonate with me. And I love the what you shared that, in hindsight seems so simple, yet not something that I had ever really thought of in this way. The fact that high achievers are really focused on finishing things, on completing things. And
Yeah.
that really makes a lot of sense. And then that combined with, like you're saying, our eyes are bigger than our plates or than our kind of like to-do list capacity just makes the combination of things there
Yeah.
just makes it inevitable for there to be this sense of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And I also find it interesting what you're saying about that it's not necessarily about how much time we're spending, but the variety of things that we're doing. Can you speak more to that?
Sure. You think about, imagine that there are two people. We'll call them Sally and Sue. At Sally's job, she has one project and she's working 40 hours a week focused on that one project. And every day she's moving that one project forward. Then you've got Sue. Sue is also working 40 hours a week, but she is a part of seven different projects. So that means that she's got seven different goals to track. She's got seven different types of tasks to manage. She's got seven different groups of stakeholders to collaborate with. They're working the same number of hours. Who do you think feels more overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Sue, with her seven projects. So,
Mhm.
despite the fact that they're working the same number of hours, that variety that Sue has to deal with those seven different projects, every single time she switches from one project to the next. So, I know hopefully by now we all know that multitasking is a myth, but just in case no one's ever, no, you've never heard that before, multitasking isn't real. What is real is context switching. And context switching is when our brains shift from focusing on one thing to another. So we'll call it from project A to project B. And every single time we switch our focus from project A to project B, there is a percentage of our brain that is continuing to think about project A, despite the fact that we've shifted gears and we're supposed to be focused on project B. Now, think about this. When you don't have your full focus on something, you're more likely to make mistakes. You're more likely to get confused or distracted. And so every single time we switch from one project to the next, we're losing the ability to fully focus. Therefore, we're missing out on productivity. We're missing out on efficiency and effectiveness. And so when the more different things you're trying to work on at once, different projects, the more opportunities there are for you to leak productivity and efficiency every time you switch. And so that's why when it comes to overwhelm, it's a result of the number of different things on our plate. It's the complexity, it's the variety. And another thing, you go back to high achievers having this desire to complete things, to achieve, to check things off the list. I mean, that's we're so driven by finishing. When you have seven different projects that you're managing, and don't even just think of this within the context of work. I mean, we have projects that we're dealing with at home in our personal lives, and every single one of these projects represents us moving in a direction. And so we make a little progress on project A, and then we make a little progress on project B, and then a little progress on project C. And then the day's over. And we end the day and we feel like we haven't made any noticeable progress because our attention is split between so many different things that we're not able to feel the progress. And when we don't see the progress, when we don't feel the progress, we feel discouraged rather than momentum to keep going. And so it all comes down to how can you inventory the different projects that you're currently spending your time on and understand, like, okay, what can I remove? What can I reschedule? And then where can I refocus so I can actually make noticeable progress forward and start building some momentum and reducing that overwhelm?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you explained that really well. And I can definitely relate to that feeling that you were talking about where I try to have like theme days where it's like days where I'm doing, things like this, creating content, and days where I'm meeting with clients. That's not always possible. So then I'll find that the times when I'm working on something else and then I'm meeting with a client, it's sometimes it's hard to do that shift. Whereas if I'm just meeting with clients all day, it's easier to stay in that mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely see how that, like you're talking about that context switching,
Yeah.
there's kind of a delay there. There's kind of like our brain needs time to kind of like catch up with that.
100%. I love theme days. Theme days are one of the three time management tools in the Swiss Army knife of time management that I talk about in my book, Time Management Essentials. But there are days that have to be random where maybe, like you said, maybe it's coaching clients and it's a little bit of deep work and it's some admin. And I find, and maybe you feel the same way, but I find that I am so exhausted on those days because of all of the different modes of thinking, all of the different types of thinking that's taking place in one day rather than really defining, okay, today I'm in client mode or today I'm in podcast mode. And so I'm a huge fan of theme days just for kind of gathering, collecting, and organizing that mental energy, all in one category.
And I'm curious, as far as your experience, are you somebody who has always been good with time management? Is it something that you learned? I think a lot of times people think like, oh, this is just something that's innate. Some people are good at it, some people aren't good at it. What's been your experience?
Yeah, so it's funny. I I believe that we all have innate preferences in the way that we move through the world. And that some people really prefer closure, whereas some people prefer that open-ended possibilities. Some people are just born list makers. I mean, I see it with my girls now. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old loves to make a list. And my 4-year-old, I mean, she's just like, I'm covered in mud. What are we even doing right now? And I was definitely one of those list makers as a kid. I think I started buying issues of Real Simple magazine when I was in high school just because I thought it was interesting. I was really interested in that type of content. But that doesn't mean that I was necessarily born a magical time management unicorn. I haven't always been good at this. However, I have gravitated to roles that do require organization and good time management. I mean, my very first job right out of college was a scheduler to a United States congressman. So, fun fact, there is literally a job in every single congressional office that is dedicated to nothing but managing the congressman's schedule. That's it. Like you spend all day moving things around on a calendar. And that was my job. And so I learned a lot about functional time management in that job because I had to. But that didn't I could say like that didn't prepare me for then spending a decade in crisis communications and managing my time through hurricanes and oil spills and droughts and floods and all kinds of crisis situations. I mean, I think that sometimes you can be really good at time management and still be burned out. You can be really good at time management and still be in survival mode. Because time management at its core is making decisions about how you spend your time. It doesn't mean that the decisions are good necessarily. And it doesn't mean that you're making decisions that support you and your health as an individual. I mean, when I was working in crisis communications, sure, I was managing my time in a way that enabled me to get my work done, but it was at the expense of my health, my well-being, my relationships, and a lot of the really good things in life that make life worth living, that really create that experience for us. And it got to a point for me after spending, so much time putting my clients first, being there for them versus being for myself when I really hit a breaking point. And I knew that, okay, this is not the life that I want to live. I might be managing my time. I might be creating time blocks or making lists that help me get my work done, but I'm not getting my work done and taking care of myself. And I've got to figure this out for me, of course, but because it shouldn't be this hard. And I know I'm not the only person like me. I remember during that time frame when I was so just burned out and unhappy while I was in crisis communications, and I was also talking with so many other women and friends who were just overwhelmed, who were burnt out, and they didn't see a clear path to how do I right the ship? How do I get my life in order? How can I manage my time in a way that actually enables me to use the gifts that I've been given and make a difference, but also take care of myself. So that's where my idea and understanding of time management really changed. That it's not just about knowing how to put things on your calendar and knowing how to time block. It's about knowing how to put things on your calendar in a way that supports all of you. And so that's what we do in the It's About Time Academy. That's what I feel like I am almost retraining my members to think about time management. It's that it's not just about appointments on a calendar, it's about designing your life so that when you look back on it, you have no regrets and you have the life that you want to look back on and tell stories about.
Mm. Yeah, and I think your story, I'm sure, resonates with a lot of my listeners in that many of them I know are you maybe even enjoy planning or can get stuck in like over planning things and like hyper fixating on their to-do lists, but then are still struggling with burnout and putting themselves last. So what are some first steps that you would recommend for somebody who is in a place like that right now?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And it's funny that you mentioned the people who overplan, who overschedule, who really, give so much weight to their to-do list. The first step is having awareness of that fact. It's recognizing, hey, this is how I think about time. This is how I approach time right now. I actually have a quiz that helps you figure out what your like time management archetype is. And what you just described, I call the architect. The architect is that person who almost overschedules themselves minute by minute. And then when one curveball gets thrown in, the entire schedule goes up in flames and then they don't know how to recover. And so it's just this constant move everything tomorrow and move everything the next day and move everything the next week. And the thing is that when you're aware of how you typically approach time and time management, you're able to get clearer next steps. I believe that time management is not one size fits all. One of the biggest problems in the time management, productivity, information industry is that here's a system. Use this system, it works, but it doesn't work for everyone. Every system is not designed to work for every person because we all think and operate differently. And then when we try a system and it doesn't work for us, we assume that we're the problem when that's not the case at all. And what does that do? That only adds to our anxiety. Oh, I'm trying to implement XYZ time management system, but it's not clicking, it's not working. What's wrong with me? No, it's not you. It's just that system wasn't designed for the way that you think. That's okay. We want to work with the way that you think, not against it. Because when you know about yourself, the way that you approach time, then you can customize a system to fit you and your life and feel confident in that because you're like, hey, this works for me. This might not work for you. This works for me. So, first step, get to know yourself. You can do that through taking my free quiz. You can find it annadekornick.com/quiz. But my quiz obviously isn't the only one out there. Even if you know your Enneagram or your Myers-Briggs or your Strengths Finder, any of those things can really point you in the direction of, okay, so this is how I think. Now, how can I apply this to the way that I manage my time? And so, really, understanding that awareness is the most important first step. And then I always say that no matter what your personality type is or what your approach to time is, adding one simple step once a week to your life will change the way you feel each and every week. And it's literally just sitting down once a week and looking at the next 7 days of your life on your calendar. That's it. It's just opening up your calendar. Let's say you do it on a Sunday and just what do the next 7 days look like? What does the next week look like? So, awareness about yourself and awareness about what's up ahead. And now, of course, you have to actually have a digital calendar that you keep up with or a planner that you keep up with in order for this to work. So, that might be step point 5. You might need to have that first. But the cool thing is that when you get a bird's eye view of your week ahead, you have the ability to solve problems before they become problems because you're able to spot and see, oh, those two appointments on Thursday are really close together. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to get from the first one to the second one based on what I know about traffic. So let me go ahead now and make a note to reschedule or shift. You might realize, oh, wow, I have meetings all day on Tuesday. I'm going to be exhausted. So, you know what? I'm not going to have plans to make a complicated dinner that night. I'm going to just make the decision now that Tuesday is going to be a takeout night because that's going to be what's best for me and my family without pushing myself to, oh, well, I bought all these ingredients and now I have to cook them or they're going to go bad. When you get that bird's eye view a week ahead, like I said, you're able to solve the problems before they become problems. And here's the really cool thing. I know you know this, but our subconscious minds are so powerful. And the connections that we're making in the background without even realizing it, it's like magic. And so when you look at the week ahead, you're essentially planting a seed in your subconscious so that it can problem solve for you about your week without you even realizing it. So you may get your view of the week ahead and you don't consciously notice something that's happening on Wednesday, but your subconscious can spot it. And maybe you'll wake up tomorrow morning and realize, oh, I really need to adjust this on Wednesday to make sure I have space for XYZ. It's so cool. But if you don't get that bird's eye view, you can't let your subconscious go to work in the background because it doesn't have the information to work with. It's like a magic trick.
No, it definitely is. I think it's fascinating how just kind of what you're saying is giving your brain the opportunity to observe, get the information of what's happening. And then, yeah, I find that happens. Sometimes I'll, like, if I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, wait, and then write it on my Post-it notes that I have on my nightstand for just those situations. Or like you're saying, waking up the next day. And it sounds like what you're describing isn't about like making these huge changes, but more so just about noticing what's there and seeing if you can make shifts to make things somewhat easier so that maybe you're not rushing or putting more on your plate than you can handle or putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
It's in the small tweaks and shifts that we make that add up to success that we actually feel. A lot of times we think that in order to change our lives or change our time, that we have to make big, dramatic, sweeping changes. Well, I need to wake up at 5 a.m. from now on, or I need to spend the first 4 hours of my day engaged in deep work because they read it in a book. But most of the time, those big sweeping changes don't stick because we're putting too much pressure on ourselves to change too much about our lives at once. This is why, whenever we make 15 New Year's resolutions, none of them last past January 17th because we're trying to make too many changes at once and our brain can't handle it. You know, our brains are wired for survival and not success. Our brains are wired for survival and not success. That's why it's so hard to get off the sofa and go work out or to stop going through the drive-through at McDonald's and get fresh vegetables because our brains know what's comfortable. And if it's comfortable, then it's safe. And if it's safe, then we're burning fewer calories and we're still alive. And that's literally all our bodies, that's all our brain wants for us, is to burn as few calories as possible and to stay alive. And as long as we don't do anything different, we know that we're going to be fine. Even if the choices that we're currently making aren't actually what's best for us. It's wild the way that we have to sometimes fight with ourselves to make changes and do new things. So that's why the little bitty shifts are the key to success because we can handle those and we can gradually tweak and add more over time instead of implementing a brand new full life system in 2 days and then expecting it to magically work.
Mm, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, what would you say to somebody who is in such a place of maybe overwhelm and stress and anxiety that there's a lot of resistance that comes up maybe when it's like drop this one thing that you're doing or make this change to your schedule. So maybe they're stuck in that place of it just feels like making any change is too much or they're afraid of dropping the ball.
Oh my gosh, I hear you. And, you know, when I started working as a time management coach, I so wholeheartedly believed that the first step to good time management was creating a clear vision for your life. Because when you have a clear vision for your life, you have a direction to move in, and every single decision that you make about how to spend your time becomes easier because you have a clear vision. And that's still true. The problem is that there are so many of us who are so overwhelmed that we don't even have the capacity to create the vision for the future and to take action on making the tweaks that's going to get us there. So, in order to create that capacity, first we have to deal with the overwhelm itself. And I actually have a podcast episode all about the 5 different types of overwhelm that I've discovered over time. And every type of overwhelm, which it's easy to know what kind you're feeling or what the combination is, but every type of overwhelm has a different path to clear it. And so I would encourage you to think not just, I am overwhelmed. What do I do? But I am overwhelmed. What's causing me to feel overwhelmed? And you can't just say everything because we have to actually go deeper. And sometimes it's, I feel so overwhelmed because I know that there are all of these things that I need to be doing, but I feel like I don't even know what all of them are. And it's making me feel overwhelmed that I might be dropping balls, but I don't even have the balls written down yet. So that's when your mind feels loud and you can't quite grasp onto anything. So that's when we want to get everything out of your head and onto paper. That's when we want to do what I call a mind sweep and just get it out, because once it's out, you'll be shocked at how quiet you start to feel, because you've you've just cleared it out, like swept all the nooks and crannies in the corners, because then you can do something with it. Okay, so then that might lead to another type of overwhelm. Okay, I have all of this stuff, but I don't know where to start, because there's starting line overwhelm when it's like, I have all this, where do I start? And so you have to determine through quick prioritization, okay, what out of all of these things actually needs to be done now? What needs to be done at some point? What doesn't need to be done at all, but I've been carrying it around like a brick in a backpack because it's something that I feel obligated to do? And you'll find that you can probably let go of, whether it's through delegation or just elimination altogether, you can let go of so many things that you've been carrying around that don't even need to be done. And then maybe it's, okay, I know what's on my plate, but I have so many different projects that are in motion right now. And I don't have the capacity to move all of these projects forward in a way that I see impact. It's like what we were talking about in the beginning with Sally and Sue, how Sally has 7 different projects and she's overwhelmed. Sometimes we don't even realize all of the different projects that we're managing at once. It's like we're spinning plates and it's like we can't even see all the plates. And so that might look like doing an inventory. Okay, what are all of the things that I'm currently giving my time to? And then sometimes we're overwhelmed because we get a curveball. You get a call from daycare that your kid is throwing up. Your car battery dies on the way to a conference that you're speaking at. You get sick, Like we get curveballs like that, and that causes an entirely different type of overwhelm that has to be handled in a completely different way. And so, like I said, it's not enough to say, I'm overwhelmed. What do I do? You have to ask yourself, okay, what is causing me to feel this overwhelm? Because only then can you take a clear next step forward to clear the mental clutter and create the capacity and the space to craft the vision and take the steps to make your life look closer to that vision.
If you're enjoying this conversation and you want more support to feel calm, balanced, and confident in your daily life, then I invite you to join me free at my weekly-ish newsletter at calmlycoping.com/newsletter. I share practical tips, personal insights, and resources designed specifically for high achievers managing stress and anxiety so you can feel more grounded and in control. Again, that's calmlycoping.com/newsletter. I'd love to have you join us. Now back to the episode. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I will absolutely link that podcast episode you mentioned along with, I think you mentioned a quiz. So I'll put all of that stuff in the show notes for anybody who is listening. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about work-life balance, because I know that a lot of times people say work-life balance is a myth, it doesn't exist. And I'm curious from your perspective, being a time management coach, where you stand with that.
Yeah, so my philosophy on work-life balance is that balance is a feeling, not a formula. Balance is a feeling, not a formula. And anyone who says that work-life balance isn't real might be thinking of the concept of work-life balance in a formulaic way, like A plus B equals C.
Like the scale, we
Yeah,
imagine, like it needs to
that's
be equal.
that's not that's not how work-life balance works. When you have work-life balance, you can feel it. And your calendar might look insane, but if you feel balance, if you feel good, then you're there. And if you feel overwhelmed and you feel out of whack and you feel not good, then okay, let's take a look at what's causing those feelings. And the thing is that what work-life balance feels like for me, what it looks like for me, is going to be completely different for you. And so that's why a vision is so important. Because when you decide, okay, for me, work life balance looks like the ability to step away from my laptop at 4 p.m. feeling good, feeling accomplished. It looks like the ability to do activities with my daughters on the weekends, guilt free, without feeling like I have to sneak into the office on the weekends. Work life balance for me feels like I'm going to the gym a few times a week, moving my body, eating well. And that, again, that's my version. And so you have to really think about, well, what is your version of work life balance? Because if you can't define that, you're never going to reach it. You're not going to just magically create work life balance if you don't even know what that looks like for yourself. And that's what a vision is. It's, hey, what does work life balance actually mean to me? What does it feel like for me? Now, how do we reverse engineer and create that feeling?
Yeah, I love that. And, I think that a lot of people probably think about, I want to have work life balance, but maybe don't take that step of identifying what that vision is and really questioning what it is for them. Or maybe they're looking at like the Instagram feed of this is what my life should look like.
Ridiculous. And and I say ridiculous because it's common. I mean, the comparison game is real. But you know what else I see? I see people using their belief that work-life balance isn't real as an excuse for overwork and an excuse for burnout. People will say, well, work-life balance isn't real, so my burnout and the way that I feel is inevitable. And so it's almost like they use it as a crutch or they use that as an excuse to not make changes because if it's not real, then what's the point? When that's just not the case at all. You're in control. You have the ability to decide how you want to feel and then to design your life to look that way. Even though when we're overwhelmed, we feel pretty powerless. I'll admit, when we're overwhelmed, we feel pretty powerless. The great thing is that there are ways to navigate that overwhelm and to get to the other side of it. And it doesn't have to last forever.
Yeah, very inspiring words, and I think a great message overall. I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about, but we have to end the episode here. But I'd love to hear. I know that you have something to share with our listeners.
Yeah. So if your wheels are spinning about work-life balance and okay, well, what does work-life balance actually mean for me? Like, how do I figure that out? I have got something for you. It's called Blueprint to Balance. It's my free video course that walks you through the process of designing your own blueprint to balance so that you can know what that looks like and start to understand the tools that are at your disposal to start to define that vision and then design your time to match. And you can grab that at blueprinttobalance.com. Easy peasy.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll also leave a link for that in the show notes. And listeners who are interested in connecting with you more, how can they find out more about you?
Yeah. So the best way to stay in touch is since you're listening to a podcast right now, just pop over to the search bar in your podcast app, search It's About Time. My podcast, It's About Time, has new episodes that go live every single Monday. That's where I share all of my best material, all of my best tips and strategies for time management, the things that I'm currently exploring when it comes to time management and personality and overwhelm. And that's also where you'll find out about things like free workshops coming up or challenges or any new events or things that I'm hosting. So definitely go head over there and subscribe so we can stay in touch.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anna. It was great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.